podcast, the show. We're going to get back into perfect. We're going to get back into it. Whew. All right. Well, nothing. One thing for sure, two things for certain. Nothing can stop determined woman.
That's right.
We don't stop. So thank you again for having me on here, and shout out to Brittany. Shout out
Yeah.
to Brittany for extending the invitation, asking
Yes.
me, to come on the podcast. So I'm very grateful for her. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm grateful for that. So yes, I was talking about a couple of things that keeps me going
Yeah.
throughout my trials and tribulation throughout this journey. Um, when I learned that God creates our valleys and our mountains, right? He
Mm-hmm.
creates
Mm-hmm.
he creates the rich and the poor. And then not only when I learned this detail, not only do he create the rich and the poor, but during the process of creating that poor, he honors the poor
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he humbles the rich.
Mm.
So with that being said, you have the two extremes. You have the rich and the poor, obviously the two opposites, and
Right.
then you have the honor and the humble. And so it makes a lot of sense because when times are tough and it gets rough, I remember that, okay, but God is honoring me. He's
Yeah.
honoring the fact that, I'm embarking this process and I'm identifying that yes, it's hard, yes, it's tough, and
Yeah.
yes, it's painful. However, through God giving me the strength to turn that pain into a gain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, really keeps me going. So if I can remember correctly, and God forgive me if I'm wrong, but I know it's for sure in the First Samuel's chapter 2, between 2 and 3. And so I just urge the watchers to go ahead and bless yourself with that full scripture in that chapter, because it keeps me going. It really, really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really does. It was another one. It's going to come back to me as we continue to talk. But one of the things that my father always said when I was younger, tough times never last, tough people do.
Mm. And that is so important.
Hmm. And so
It's so true.
I am the first family member on both sides, my mom and my dad, to actually go to college and
Oh
finish.
wow.
Yes. And so while, that experience that was foreign to me, myself, and
Mm.
although my dad always told me, you're going to college. And I used to tell him that we are not the Cosbys.
Yeah.
We used to literally be every Thursday. My parents, we would watch Cosby as a family and
Uh-huh.
watch Fried Chicken. So that was the
That was
thing.
our show.
Exactly. Right today, it was a different world. And so
Mm-hmm.
my dad was like, "You're going to college." I'm like, "Dad, we're not the Cosbys. I'm not going to college." And I really felt like I wasn't going. And so
Yeah.
I started to say, he always said, "Tough times never last, but tough people do." And that
Yeah.
really, they always gave me my motivation. That was
Yeah.
always rock. So yeah, yep.
Wow. So how do you, and I always ask because all of my guests are women, right? Entrepreneurs, um, walking in their purpose, whatever. And so one thing we all have in common is that we often have to juggle more than one thing at one time.
Hmm.
Um, and so in your like you said, when you started your childcare, you were serving families, you started real estate, you're serving people, you're serving your children, your husband, right? So in all of that, juggling the role of being a mom, a wife, an entrepreneur, right? Of what I would say a serial entrepreneur. How do you find harmony and balance for yourself? And people always talk about finding balance, but I was talking to this oh my gosh, I forgot her name. I interviewed her like over a year ago, and she's like, it's not about just finding balance. You need to find harmony. So how do you find that balance in harmony? How do you just take a step back for yourself, right? And refill your cup, get refueled, refresh. How do you find that balance with all that you do?
I think I should definitely answer this from from the mindset of my now,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
because I didn't do it before. I was
Right.
not intentional
Exactly.
before. I was
Exactly.
very negligent before.
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
I do it and sustain it now is I'm very intentional with um one, identifying what fills me up,
Yeah.
because everything don't fill us up,
Yeah.
and identifying what needs to be released.
Mm-hmm.
Right, one of the things what filled me up, and not even just for the weight loss, but
Mm-hmm.
also
Mm-hmm.
for the self esteem. It was my product. It was the cleanse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that thing helped me release the toxicity, and that was the liquor.
Mm.
So I used to drink,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic. I like to
Yeah.
socially, I like to go out, I like to
Yeah.
party.
Yeah.
But that drink gave me those bad headaches. That was a real trigger.
Wow.
So I had to identify and accept that, and was intentional with identifying that pain. And then when we identify that pain, you have to identify the adversary. You got to identify what happens when you're going through the pain, because some
Yeah.
pain don't give us, don't give us consequences that's worth
Mm-hmm.
releasing.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very intentional on that. So
Yeah.
in terms of the harmony, I don't drink much.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I drink now.
Yeah.
If anyone see me drink wine or anything, they're like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
But so I'm very intentional with identifying the pain. I'm very intentional with what fills me up. Another thing that helps me is my morning routine. My
Mm.
morning routine is so important,
Mm.
so important.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and, and during the summertime, I'm like really super motivated, super successful, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why is because I don't have to worry about the school morning flow for my children. So there's no competition with that, because my morning flow is definitely between 8 and 9 o'clock. I'm locked in with my mentor. We're
Mm-hmm.
meditating. We're getting some type of mentorship, and
Yeah.
so it really, again, it gave me that structure to reach.
Yeah.
Right, when
Yeah.
you're intentional to reach, you're intentional to grow. If that makes
Mm.
sense. And
Mm.
so their morning routine. So now I meditate every morning. Now,
Yeah.
because school is back in motion, I get up earlier now.
Mm. Yeah.
Now I'm more challenged to not only just meditate and discipline myself in the morning time. The second thing is I'm more intentional with devotional time with God,
Yeah.
learning. So for me, I have to learn something new every day. I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to feel like I'm feeding myself, or someone's feeding my mindset. And so that's the harmony for me.
Yeah. And
That's
it's
the harmony.
interesting you talk about that morning routine. Like I have this for me, my daily walk-in worship. I try to do in the morning, like at 10 o'clock. I try to just step away from my desk because I work from home. So I step away from my desk, go outside in the neighborhood and walk and turn on my worship, my Pandora gospel, Kurt Franklin Pandora gospel.
Yes,
and
yes.
and it's like I have to, if I don't do that, my day is off. Like
Hmm.
if I get so busy like working whatever, and let's say I'm so busy, I got all these meetings, whatever, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what, something seems off. It's that, like, it's literally that morning routine for me that,
Exactly.
and it's that, and I post about it all the time. My walk in worship, like it is so, but that brings me balance and harmony, like
Yes. Yes.
literally.
Yes. And like you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, once you identify that success, once you gain that level of success, it just
Yeah.
want more. And
Yeah.
so at first my morning was starting from 8 to 9, about
Mm-hmm.
7 and 7:30, most time like 7:30, 8 to 9. But now my mornings is starting with accountability partner, starting at 5 a.m. because it's like, okay, yeah, okay, first of all, my day is crazy, but now I know I have to have my devotion. I have to have my spiritual moment. Whereas
Yeah.
though
Yeah.
I'm learning a new scripture or I'm rereading a scripture or I'm doing something. It's just something about it's another layer of conviction, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So yes, that's how I keep my harmony. Another thing that I was blessed to learn, and I'll send it to you. It's actually on my page. So
Okay.
if you go to my Instagram page at I am business rich. You'll see that I have a emotional frequency chart. And
Mm-hmm.
too often, it's actually my screensaver. I've referenced this chart because it pretty much identified your subconscious feelings from low vibration to high vibration. And
Uh-huh.
so it goes from shame and doubt all the way up to enlightenment. Enlightenment is the highest level of frequency. You know, what we doing, what we pouring out for each other.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we know what our purpose is. So when you're walking in that purpose, you're enlightening the world, you're enlightening other people. So you know God is just going to pour down the blessings because
Yeah.
you're doing his work. And so
Yes.
but when we operate in the survival space,
Ah.
well, all we're doing is attracting that. So it's
Mm.
counterproductive for us to be there because not only are we going to be there, we're going to get others that's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
When but when we're enlightening and we're loving and we have joy and we're peaceful, we're attracted to that as well. And so that mindset and that principle is one core thing that really solidifies pretty much everything I do when I'm
Yeah.
mindful of it because your vibe attracts your tribe,
Yeah. Come
right?
on. Come
So
on.
I mean, even with my children, I
Yeah.
listen. I'll be like, "Where are you at on this chart? Where am
Right.
I doing this?"
Yeah.
So yeah, so my morning routine, my dedication to spiritual growth, that is the most important thing in my
Yeah.
life. Now,
Yeah.
it's not always.
Yeah.
Not that it
Exactly.
wasn't important, but it wasn't priority. It,
Priority. I was on. Yeah.
yep,
And we're all guilty. We've all been guilty. And that's where I am now too. I was realizing that certain things were happening because that the spiritual wasn't top priority, so I had to like reprioritize my entire life and
absolutely.
put that at the top, and it was like you're you know putting all these things and people before you, almost sacrificing myself, right? Um, and then I started to realize, like, wait, it has to be spiritually. I'm weakening. Like I felt it, and I'm like, once that's off, everything is off.
Exactly.
And so because I know that, I knew how to, climb back, get back on the train, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was going to say something. Um, oh my goodness, what was I going to say? It's going to come back to me. It's going to come back to me. Mm. But like you said, when you're not in alignment to where
Mm,
God wants you to be, that's the
mm-hmm.
pain that we feel,
Yeah,
right? The guilt that we feel. And
yeah,
so just knowing that is really, really important. That's what I was
yeah.
going to say. So, of course, it's not always easy to prioritize. Number one, I always thought it was, oh, I'll get back to me, or I'm not that
Mm,
important, or, I thought self care was self love.
yeah,
There's a difference, right? But I had
yeah,
to learn
yeah.
as long as I, went and got a pedicure or got my nails and I got my hair done, I thought I was focusing on me.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Please, you right? And so when I realized that, I started getting better. And,
Mm-hmm.
and when you start focusing on you and you see how people receive that,
Yeah,
that's a lesson in itself. And that
yeah.
was my teacher. It's like, okay, you have to be deleted. You have to be deleted. You have to be deleted, right?
Come on. Yeah.
Then I'm gonna tell you, I'll share this. My journey has pushed me to a divorce.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it's not to say much negative about my marriage or
Mhm.
negative about my husband at all,
Mhm.
but it was realizing and accepting, because when you realize, that's one thing, but when you
Yeah.
accept another, right?
Yeah.
I accepted the fact that it was too much business.
Mm.
It was too much business because we both are we are go getters.
Mm.
Everything else isn't there for each other, but only thing that we could do is what we know to do, which was a lot of business. But when
Yeah.
I put myself first and I started saying, you know what, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. We need to hire an assistant. It was pushback. And then
Yeah.
it was continuously pushback. And then it was other things. So it's like, you know what? What's important now is me. And
Yeah.
so you ask me, how do I keep that harmony? I have another principle that I've adapted from my mentorship, which is, again, is power in mentorship. It's power in proximity.
Yeah.
So I've learned a win theory. And so the win theory stands for what's important now.
Mm. Mm.
What's
Wow.
important now? Because we
Now.
be so focused on the future,
You,
then we worry about the past. How about what's important now? Like what's going on right now that's
yeah. Yeah.
right?
And and that's like people say, live in the now. You know, we and like you said, we're so concerned about the past and about the future. A lot of times we'll overthink the past, something that already happened. Not it's done.
It's over. Past is going, most of the time is going to lead us to depression. The future is more than likely going to lead us to anxiety.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And when you think about it, when you really think about that word present, it's like this minute, this moment. Because
yeah,
what time is it now? 10:52.
yeah.
53 is the future.
Come on.
So when you really look at it for what it really is,
What it really is, and live
it's
in the
the
moment,
present.
and that's where I am too. Like just live in, because I've been guilty of I'm an overthinker, right? I'm doing better with it. And so I finally I'm like, how did that work? That didn't work out for me. You know, it would just cause stress. I would be overwhelmed. Even though I was getting things done, I didn't feel good, right? And so I'm like, I had to take a pause, like, wait a minute, you know what? Just live. Like, just live in the moment. If you don't want to do this, don't do it. If you don't want to go here, you just don't, because why you don't want to, so don't do it. Just live in the moment. I was just telling somebody the other day, live in the moment, live in the second. Like, just live in this, just be in this minute right now. I literally told someone that the other day. Be in this minute right now. Don't think about anything else. Just be in this minute.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's sad because, a lot of, and even myself, until we learn these principles, until we hear people that actually been delivered from their misery, it's like
Mm.
we don't know.
You
You
don't
don't
know. Yeah.
you don't know.
That's so true. So true.
You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, it's just sad. You hear about, you have some people that have a mentor or want a mentor, and the difference
Yeah.
between the two is most of the time is money,
Yeah.
right? And you ever hear when people say you cannot afford not to have a
Mm.
mentor? Until you
Mm.
realize that, it's like, what are you doing? You
Yep.
can't afford, just like you can, you think about the difference. And granted, forgive me, but you don't have to go to college to be
Mhm.
successful in life. You have
Mhm.
someone with a high school degree, but if
Yeah.
you think about it on just on that level, right? A person that want to become a doctor, you have to
Yeah.
go to college. If you want to be a doctor, you can't afford not to go to college.
Right.
But
Right.
people undervalue their life and their destiny so much to the
Yeah.
point we literally stand in our own way
You in
for
our oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
reasons that's ridiculous.
Yeah. 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 And
It's
it's that thing, get out of your own way. How many times have we stepped in? For me, I'm like, get out of God's way. I know many times where God's trying to do something and I'm so controlling, I got my hands on it. It's like, get out of God's way, okay? So he can allow this to happen.
Exactly. Exactly. And listen, we already know we don't want no smoke from God.
And I shared this with my husband recently. I'm like, I want, because I can do it. That's my organization, right? We have a brand piece, but I just kind of turned it into a nonprofit. And so I share with him, I said, I'm glad it's growing organically. Like, I didn't want it to happen fast. Like, I didn't want to sell a bunch of t-shirts really fast. First of all, it's just me. You know what I mean? It's not like you have a staff or anything. So, and I'm thinking in hindsight, at the time I wasn't thinking like, oh my gosh, what if that, now I'm thinking like, what if that did happen in 2020 when I launched? And I would have had, I worked too, right? So I would have had to do all of this stuff. I'd have to, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so it was just this year, like last year, some months ago, that I realized, like, I'm glad that I'm going to let it go at its own pace. Like, I'm not forcing anything. I'm going to wait for God to, of course you have the 5-year plan, right? But my 5-year plan wasn't a rapid growth, which is what's interesting. It wasn't, I never thought, like, I never had that, like, where it was like year one, okay, I'm going to, it was like I paced it. So, and it's written, right? So I go back to it and I've actually exceeded the 5-year plan.
Wow.
And exceeded it by, like, not growing it so fast, but like just adding these components to it that weren't, it was kind of like it grew legs of its own, right?
Hmm.
But I believe it was because I wasn't so hungry to where it's like, oh, I want this fast. Like, I want this to happen fast. I want everything to, by year two, I want to do this. Like, and I wasn't unrealistic. That's the thing too. And so it has really grown organically, just like with our, like, I watch every year our conference. Our first conference was virtual because we were still in the pandemic. The next year was in person. And so I even noticed with that, like, each year it grows. Like, and when I say it grows, I mean growth, like where people are coming giving feedback, like, oh my gosh, that changed my life. So
Wow.
so that's what I mean in not like, for me, it wasn't about having the 1,000 people in there. It's like, is anybody impacted?
I know that's right. How
You know what I
vital.
mean?
Yes. Quality over quantity.
Quality over quantity. And from day one, that's what it was with me. That's what it's always been. And so, and I'm still like, even we're in year 5 now. It'll be 5 years in August. So I'm content with that. Like, just let it
Wow.
grow organically. And so I just kind of look back at the things that, I have done, and I'm like, okay, that's actually, wait a minute, let me go back to the plan. Like, I wasn't even thinking, like, okay, it's actually grow, like God is actually doing it.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Without me jumping in, like, oh, let me take this deal or let me do this. Because one thing about me, I won't, if it's not in alignment, I won't work with it. And people have approached me, and it's like, that's not in alignment with my mission, the purpose, or anything. So I respectfully decline.
Yes. Business rich.
Yeah, yeah,
Rich.
yeah,
Thriving
yeah,
in God's way. God's
yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. And that's so important. That's so important. So, but one last question. What would you like your legacy to be? Like, what impact, at the end of the day, what is the ultimate impact that you want to have on the lives of others?
There is power in your pain.
Mm,
Girlfriend, don't stop
mm,
until you get to the game.
mm.
Oh my goodness. That was an amazing question. I literally, that's the first time I was asked that, and that was the first time that I realized that that is my desired legacy. That's the
Yeah,
message I want to give the world.
yeah, yeah. And that's powerful. That is so powerful. Well, I
Yes.
want to thank you for joining. You have shared so much today. And I just know our audience is gonna take away something. You shared so many jewels, so many powerful things that someone, maybe at the time struggling with. They may be at a standstill, and just like at that point of where they're ready to pivot, but just needed that extra that
Absolutely.
extra push, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I believe that all that you shared today, that someone will be touched, and that's what this show is all about, is that women are empowered, informed, and transformed. And so I thank you so much for being our first guest of 2025. I've really enjoyed this conversation with you. You have really been a blessing, not to our viewers, but to me as well. I've received a lot as well. So I thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
You're welcome. And thank you
Yeah.
for having me. I've received blessings from you as well. Like the release piece, the risk
Yeah.
piece. Listen, this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
this has been amazing for me as well. And like I said earlier, enlightenment is the highest level of frequency. So when
Yeah.
we are intentional to walk in our calling, God gives it back. He gives
Yeah.
it. And honestly, I'll just say this: it don't take long to figure
Yeah.
out what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Like I said, God has given me the gift to, gift of communication, gift of listening.
Hmm.
My One of my professors in college, he told me this years ago, but I didn't understand where he was coming from. But
Mm.
y- y- I would say I stand on this, and I guarantee I can have a conversation 90 minutes max with someone that's struggling, and
Yeah.
I can help them discover their purpose with
Yeah.
God's help. Of
Yeah.
course, with
and
God's
and, and that's a gift. That's a gift. That's a gift from God to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yes, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the conference. When is the conference?
It's in August. I'm going to send you the information.
Okay,
Once I lock that, I'm just waiting to get that. It tentatively it's August 2nd. So I'm just waiting for the facilities to let me know, hey, I can have that date again.
good.
And it'll all be set. So I'll send you. Well, I start promoting it early, so
Awesome.
I'll send you. Yep, I'll definitely send you the information for that. I would definitely love to have you out here for that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Well, if I know the alignment is there, the opportunity, God's
yeah,
will, I would love to come. You want me
yeah,
to speak?
yeah,
You looking for a pastor or speak?
yeah,
However, let's
yeah,
let's go. I'll
yeah,
be here.
yeah. Definitely. I look forward to working with you again. This is not the end for us. This is the beginning.
This is the beginning. Absolutely. I agree.
Yes, yeah. So thank you again. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in to our first episode, season 2 of the Women Can Do show. We will be airing every Wednesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you all for tuning in. I pray that you all have a blessed rest of your week. God bless you and good night. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Talk to you
you.
soon. Bye bye.